Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by COOLBET Canada.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome inside The Lock Shop. Dusty and Huss back with you once again, and boy, we've got lots to discuss. There's no doubt about that. Very exciting times for The Lock Shop. Huss, we are coming off of our best golf weekend of the year. Outright winner, Vic Hovland hits, and we hit our three-man parlay. Couldn't be any better, buddy.
Dude, that was a hell of a way to finish up the PGA Tour regular season, if you like regular tournaments. This week, of course, we got the top 30 at the Tour Championship. We'll dive in that tomorrow. But, with only 30 in the field, the staggered start, not the best betting tournament of the year. So, for two of the three guys to be on Vic Hovland, shout out to Pete Greggy as well, and then for us to come through with the partner parlay, and there was no doubt that Hovland was going to be top 10. Sungjae Im was basically sniffing around the top 10. He was safe in there. And basically it came down to Corey Connors. And I don't know if you were in the same situation I was, but obviously they weren't showing Corey on television. So, we're just basically having to watch shot by shot. And he got to 7 under. He needed to stay at 6 or better. He got to 7, then he bogeyed 15, I think, to get back to 6, and was right there. And I'm like, and I was feeling extra nervous because I was the one that texted the group chat going, "Hey guys, this parlay is looking pretty good on Saturday." You did.
I said, "Don't jinx this, buddy. Don't jinx this."
I wanted to make sure you guys were paying attention. I wanted to make sure that people were locked in, knowing, hey, we are live with this plus 850 banger. And then Corey came in. Hardest 2 holes of the course were 17 and 18. We saw what Vic did to them.
Yeah.
But Corey birdied 17. At that point, only a double on 18 would ruin the party. That didn't happen. Plus 850. And then got a chance to just sit back and watch Vic Hovland go absolutely nuclear with the 28 on the back nine, a 61 for the round, and an 18-1 winner. And once again, thank you, COOLBET, for the best golf odds around. There was a lot of people on Vic Hovland. I was seeing 14s. I was seeing 16s. Everybody in the lock shop got it at 18-1, which is just a little bit sweeter when you cash a ticket that a lot of people are on.
Man, I get overall golf season was pretty good to us. I think we ended up, what do we have, like 6 outright winners? I think we probably had about 6 outright winners this year. So we had that stretch at the beginning of the year where we hit like 3 out of 4 and then deliver a couple down the stretch as well, which was pretty good. I like that. All right. So now we change our hats. Well, you change your hat specifically. I'm rolling with the old Blue Jays lid today, but
maybe the worst Jays hat in the history of Jays hat.
You know what? I will say this. I have the black jersey as well. Like it was a Halliday jersey. I didn't hate this look. I know a lot of people hate the look. I didn't love it. I obviously loved it enough to get the hat and the jersey, but I didn't hate the look. I didn't mind the dark Blue Jays look.
Well, listen, I wasn't, arranging public protests during the time that they were wearing it or anything like that. However, looking at their jerseys now, looking at their jerseys over the lifespan of the franchise, and now looking back to that era, they're disgusting.
They're disgusting.
They're so bad.
When you see this logo, tell me you don't first think of Vernon Wells.
You know what I think of? Spring training. I think that's the sort of place that you pull things like that at. But it's true. And Halliday, his greatest years were during that era. And it does sort of stick out when you see the jerseys of the great teams and then those ones. It sort of comes out. But yeah, listen, Vernon Wells, absolutely. Halliday, for sure.
Yeah.
And Joey Bats, when he came at the start. He was
I guess when he first came, they had this going too. That's right. Yeah.
And his first season in Toronto was so insane. He comes as a basic nobody and then turns into Joey Bats.
Blows up. Yeah, great. That was amazing.
Hey, one other quick thing from the weekend. and we'll get into the CFL on the CFL show on Thursday. But did you catch the UFC?
I saw on Twitter Sugar Sean O'Malley was blowing up.
Dude. Okay, first of all, shout out to Winnipeg's Brad Katona, who won the Ultimate Fighter finale, first time ever to win it twice. And this guy, there's no other way to put it, looks like a nerd. I mean, he is right out. When we first met him, he was studying engineering at the U of M. He's this quiet little guy with glasses. And then he takes his shirt off and gets into the octagon and becomes a stone cold killer. He's done it twice. He's back in the UFC. Everyone around here is all fired up for him. He's back in Winnipeg, actually, after the big win. But that Sugar Sean fight, first of all, the punch that he hit Sterling with, I think is the most perfect punch I've ever seen. I mean, the power, he moves back, the counter punch, square on the face. I don't think it could have been any better. Finishes him off. And I heard this, and again, we'll maybe ask Pat about this. I'm not sure there's been a fight where the sports books took more of a bath. Now,
because everybody was on him, man.
It was like 86% of the bets and 92% of the handle was on him to win. And he was like a plus 270 underdog.
Oh boy.
So
yeah, that's a big hit.
It is.
That's a tough one.
And that guy he's such a piece of work. I will say this, and I don't know a lot about hair coloring, but folks, if you look at the picture of him in the weigh-in, he has that afro, and it had basically been colored to look like a rainbow cotton candy. Honest to God, and I was speaking with some females about this that actually did know, and I'm like, would you not agree this is the best color job you've ever seen on a head of hair in history? They were with me on that.
Really? Wow. And you don't know much about hair coloring, as you said.
It was just so obvious. But anyways, and you got to follow this guy on Twitter afterwards. He gets back to his hotel room. He's still in his trunks. He's got the belt on one side, and he's smoking a joint about this long. Champ, and now he's doing all stuff. I mean, I don't know how long he'll hold the belt, but man.
Yeah, but they're going to pump him up big time, right? He's already getting a push.
Star. I mean, to put it this way, the most dangerous guys might not get a fight for a bit because I think they're going to want to keep him on top. But again, you got to do it in the ring. Anyways, I happened to see the main event, and that was awesome. But it was very noteworthy from a betting perspective that it's seeming like everybody was on Sugar Sean, and the books were hurting, I think, when they woke up on Sunday morning.
Well, I'm sure they'll get a lot of that back in the National Football League. Unless, of course, you bet with us last year, because last year was a really good year for us in the NFL. And let's slide into it. So we're going to lay it out here over the next few weeks. You're going to get a bunch of different NFL future shows. Obviously, golf, we'll have our final golf episode tomorrow. Then we got our CFL stuff continuing. And then, of course, Lock Shop hits it hard and heavy when we get to the National Football League. And but there's already hundreds of markets up over at COOLBET, all the player props, and there's a lot of stuff going on over there. We decided to dive into some win totals, and Huss has an interesting bet on the Ravens here as well. But man, I'll say this, it was nice spending about an hour and a half last night digging through team totals and strengths of schedule and things along those lines. It felt good to be back, buddy. Let's be honest.
You know what? Last night envisioned all that's great about this time of year and the Lock Shop. You had sent me that message saying, hey, we should get into some NFL futures. And listen, I'll admit to where I was last night. I had an epic Saturday, which ended up at the casino in town. And I came back and realized that we'd had a great night. I still had a bunch of chips on me that I somehow forgot to cash in. So it was Monday. I didn't have much going on. I said, okay, I'll rip by there. And so whatever, I get these chips in. I'm like threw into a machine. I'm watching. This is so degen. At a casino on Monday night, looking at NFL futures on my phone, watching the Ravens Commanders game with a bet on the Monday preseason Monday nighter. It just,
He's
had
back, people. He's back.
Step back. If you saw me laughing to myself at the chair, it was all sort of coming.
That would explain why you texted me at like midnight. Yeah, and I was still up. I was still up working on some stuff for Edmonton Sports Talk, so I was just replying. I'm like, I wonder if Huss is wondering why I'm still up and it's midnight here. But I was not at a casino betting on multiple things on my phone.
I didn't stay there all night. I did not stay there all night, and I actually came out with the chips. I was actually when I came in to cash out, I came out with more. So it was all good. The point of this, though, is that it's so easy to start looking at the COOLBET boards for NFL futures and lose track of time, because right now is the time. There are so many things up on the board. And as you just mentioned, like next week, we'll tweet out a bit of a schedule, and then people can go in, and obviously you can find it on the YouTube channel or whatever. But we'll focus in on, we'll probably do a number of player prop shows. Some rushing totals.
Well, we can do a running back show. We can do a quarterback show. We do a bunch of shows,
Absolutely. Passing totals. And then I think, we can probably get into a few more win totals later on if we want, but obviously we'll have division winners. We'll have the conference bets. And then you get into things like MVP, the awards. So, the next couple of weeks, there's going to be a ton of futures content. And a lot of that sort of ties in, especially with the player props, to what's going to be dominating most people's lives that are watching this for the next 2 weeks. And that, of course, is fantasy football drafts.
Yeah, there's no short. We got a draft, a week yesterday with Jamie Thomas, right? I have the first overall pick in that draft this year, I think. So it's good. I'm looking forward to that one. But yeah, it's draft season as well. So there's lots to get to here. I actually see we're going head to head on the Jets win total, which sits at 9.5, and then a bunch of different options here, Huss. Let's love you. Right there. What's that?
Sorry, go ahead.
You want to start right there? Is that what you said? Or
but you were saying you love me.
Well, no, I was going to say I love you taking the under 4.5 on Arizona. Like, I know they're shitty, but I still love you going out and taking the under 4.5.
They are. But listen, why don't we start with the Jets? Because I think this, of all the interesting stuff, we'll make our plays. It's always fun to be on either side. And I'll be honest, I could not believe that it's plus 112 for the Jets to go under
the number.
Win.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I actually like the Jets, and I think they're a pretty good team. I think their defense is solid. I do wonder about that line at times, but I think Aaron Rodgers will be able to handle that. But here's the thing. They're in maybe the toughest division.
Really tough division. Yep.
You've got 2 games, including the opener, albeit at home against the Bills on September 11th. That is going to be a hell of a Monday night kickoff. That's for sure. Listen to their first 6 games. Home to the Bills, at the Cowboys, home to New England, home to the Chiefs, at Denver, home to Philly.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
Here's the rest of the sked. They're at the Giants, they're home to the Chargers, at the Raiders, that should be a win, at the Bills, Miami, Atlanta, Houston at home. And that is the area. If they can get on that run and kind of establish their playoff position, maybe they get to 10 wins. But 3 of their last 4 on the road, with games at Miami, at Cleveland, at New England, home to Washington in there. I just think that the Jets are really overvalued right now. And I think that they are in such a difficult division that even if they get prime Aaron Rodgers, which I think is still somewhat of a question, he did not have a great season last year. They're going to be in a dogfight for a wild card spot. I can't see them winning this division. And I probably don't like them coming on the positive end of head-to-head matchups with Buffalo, and I think even Miami. Maybe they could split with Miami. I'm maybe higher on Miami than a lot of other people are. Obviously, Tua needs to stay healthy, and that's a big, big if. And to be honest, I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Patriots. I think the Patriots defense is going to be a problem this year.
I'm under on the Patriots 7 wins.
You think Bill Belichick's team is going to go 6-11?
I do. I mean, like last year, they won 8 games. 7 of them were against backup quarterbacks. They beat 7 backups last year. I'm not sure they face 7 backups again this year. And I look at it from the exact same way you kind of laid out the Jets, Huss, in that the Patriots, to me, are in a very difficult division. The Dolphins are better. The Jets are better. The Bills are better. And I think that's going to be a lot of trouble. And the fact that they beat a bunch of backups last year, they had 1 win last season against a starting quarterback. That's it. So I'm not putting too much stock into what I saw from New England last year. And I don't look at them and go, wow, this is a group that offensively is really ready to take the next step. I mean, when you're reaching out and getting a past his prime overweight Zeke at this stage of the season, I'm not sure how much confidence you have in your group already anyway. And I like Ramondre Stevenson. I love him. But still, it's like, I don't know. I think this is a really tough year for New England, man.
Did you see Zeke show up at camp after he signed? Like, he is literally a Big Mac away from being a defensive tackle.
Well, we were talking about it after the Stampeders game in the car on the way back to the hotel, and Zeke came up, and we're like, 2 years after he retires, he's 280 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, that's like Zeke's one of those guys that doesn't look the same after. You know, a lot of offensive linemen after their career, they slim down, like they get in better shape. You can barely recognize them. Zeke's the other guy. He's the other guy.
MJD, remember Maurice Jones-Drew?
Yeah.
Seeing him on the NFL Network? I mean, and again, I'm sure this is hilarious coming from me, but he does look like essentially like a bowling ball right now. And
this is I mean, we're a couple of guys here who are out there critiquing a bunch of other people being in shape, right? Like,
professional athletes playing in the NFL. Anyways, I think maybe the optics were bad. I'm interested to see how Zeke does. You know, he can maybe help them with some short yardage. I don't think he's a big difference maker, but make the case for the Jets over 9.5 wins, because I think there's, especially at minus 137. I still can't believe this number, for the record. Even if they do go over, there's no way they should be this much or frankly, I should be getting plus 112 on an under number for a team that is the Jets.
It's pricey. The minus 137 on over 9.5 isn't an ideal number. I will give you that. I'm not sure you mentioned it, but the Jets defense, like this for me, is a bet on the Jets defense. Like the Jets defense is really good last year. I think they're a group of young guys who are only going to be getting better as well. There's a bunch of playmakers on that side of the ball. So if you combine the Jets defense with, and you're right, it's not going to be prime Aaron Rodgers, but at the same time, does Aaron Rodgers want to go out and prove like, hey, look at me, I got a ton of game left here, and he's got Garrett Wilson, who I think is going to have an absolutely monster year. They did add Dalvin Cook to that running back group, so that's interesting. I think he's got more juice left than Zeke on the other side. And then, of course, he's got a couple of his other guys who's familiar with. Randall Cobb's going to go wherever he goes. I'm not sure he factors in, but Alan Lazard is there as well. So I think the offense is good enough to win a few games on its own with Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback, but I think the defense is what could possibly make them a 10-point team, or 10-win team. So that's why I'm getting it. You do lay out tough schedule. Do you have that schedule again? The first, like those first games, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, the Jets. I just have to go back here. We were on the Patriots. Jets' first 6 games of the season.
Yeah.
Home to the Bills on Monday Night Football, at the Cowboys, home to the Patriots, home to the Chiefs, at Denver, home to Philadelphia. And then they get their bye week.
See, I could see them coming. I could see, like, in a positive spin, they come out of that 3-3, and then go from there. I mean, the Denver game, what's Denver going to be this year? I mean, if the Jets are who I hope they're going to be, they go into Denver and win that football game. The Cowboys, to me, that could be a coin flip this season. The Chiefs and Bills are not. But look, I don't think the Bills just roll in on the road first week of the season and crush the Jets. You know, we've seen the Bills have some weird letdown spots too. So not an ideal start to that, but I think everybody talks about Aaron Rodgers, but I think their defense is among the top 5 in the National Football League. And I think with Rodgers now on board, he should make Wilson better, and Wilson's already really good. I think they're a 10-win team this year, buddy.
Yeah, as I said, we will see. I think for them, even if they're 2-4, can they get? It's going to be 7 to 8 wins, and that's going to be the difference, through those. Very winnable games with Washington, Houston, Atlanta, all at home. They do have the Raiders on the road at the New York Giants. They're going to need to win like those 5 games for sure, and then figure out, either home to the Chargers is still going to be tough, at Buffalo tough, home to Miami winnable. They got the 2 games against Miami, at Cleveland, at New England. As they say, we're going to see a lot of the Jets this year, so we may as well get a piece of them one way or the other because they're going to be on primetime seemingly every second week. Moving on, well, I'll go to that Arizona number. And man, dude, this Arizona team is absolutely dreadful. Kyler Murray's going to be out for a while, so they're going to either Colt McCoy or I see they've got David Blau, not to be confused. Mr. Blau, not to be confused with Mr. Plow from The Simpsons, and Clayton Tune. James Conner, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. Remember that trade they made? Rondale Moore, Dorich, Zach Ertz is a player. This has 2-15 written all over it. And most importantly for Arizona, it's got number 1 pick overall written all over it. And let's not forget, this is a complete tank season for Arizona because not only do they have their pick, they've also got the Texans' first-round pick after that trade they made that allowed the Texans to go back-to-back with Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud. So I really don't think that there's going to be much pressure on this team to do anything. Expectations are low. And I can tell you one guy I won't be taking in fantasy, and that's Kyler Murray, because I have major doubts that he's going to be very motivated to come back to a team that might be 1-8 by the time that he's ready to go. So 4.5 wins. I thought it might be 3.5. To be honest, what the number was. I think we've got some cushion here. That's how bad the Cardinals are.
You're feeling really good about the 4.5.
Yes. So under 4.5 wins. And if we can bet right now as to who gets the number 1 pick in the draft, I will happily make a wager on the Cardinals for that as well. The other under, we just kind of went over to it, was the Jets. The NFC South is a fascinating division, Dusty. There's been so much change. Brady's gone. Atlanta doesn't get a new quarterback, but they do get a stud running back in Bijan Robinson, who should really make their offense more dynamic. Bryce Young goes number 1 overall to Carolina. They got Frank Reich. They've got Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, but they don't have an offensive line. Hopefully Bryce Young doesn't get killed in his rookie season.
He looks so little back there. I worry for him.
Well, absolutely. And that's not a good recipe if you've got if you've got a small quarterback playing behind a shitty offensive line. So I do worry that a lot of the things that I think Carolina is capable of won't happen because they won't be able to protect Bryce Young. But this division overall is really interesting because, of course, Derek Carr now is with the Saints. And I look at that division overall. The Saints are plus 120. The Falcons plus 225. Panthers plus 375. And the Bucs, who just named Baker Mayfield their starter, are 8-1. The one guy I think we can count on is Carr. And this is a little bit of maybe a redemption stop for him, but he's got some weapons. And I think their defense is pretty good too. So I could totally see the Saints going 4 or 5 wins just in the division. And if that's the case,
that goes a long way. Yeah.
Then I think worst case scenario, they push this bet and because it's over 9. Like 9.5 might be a little bit harder to do because then you're guaranteed you have to get them to you got to get them to 10 wins. But as I say, their schedule right now, I mean, Tennessee, at Carolina, at Green Bay, home to Tampa Bay, at New England, at Houston, home to Jacksonville. Then they've got Indianapolis, Chicago, Minnesota, Atlanta, Detroit, Carolina, Giants. There's not a lot of really tough teams on the schedule. So I really like the Saints to get to 10 wins and win this one. But I think worst case scenario, you push it, you don't lose it. And then the other team that I'm going to take the over, and I'm actually quite surprised this number is as low as it is the Tennessee Titans.
You don't mind the Titans, hey? I considered briefly maybe the under, but then I just decided to stay away from it.
No, you know what? Listen, I think that they are a team that I think they could win the division, to be perfectly honest. I know we're all horny for Jacksonville. We saw them kind of come around and stuff like that. Listen, Mike Vrabel wins football games. Tannehill is certainly capable of winning games. They've got Derrick Henry, and now they've got DeAndre Hopkins. I saw Treylon Burks went down. We'll see what his situation going is, but they've got a legitimate one receiver. They've got the best running back in football, and they've got a defense that can hold on. And I mean, again, they're in a division with a rookie quarterback in Indianapolis, a Jacksonville team that is legitimately good, and, probably one of the 3 worst teams in the league in the Houston Texans. So, yeah, I think they can get to 8 wins. Absolutely, I think they can get to 8 wins. And that's part of the reason why it's minus 125 to the over, but I do like that. Now, the one thing, this is my final pick, and I was going to go to the Ravens. And the Ravens win total, if you're looking at it right now,
isn't it 10.5? Or is it 9.5? Yeah, it's 10.5, yeah.
No, I'm high on the Ravens. But I mean, that division is going to be savage. You can make a case that the Steelers are going to be way better. The Browns are going to be better. The Bengals are the Bengals. So to get to 11 wins, again, it's just about even money. It's minus 102. But listen, I think that if Baltimore gets to 11 wins, I think they win the division. So why would I bet over 10.5 at minus 102 when I can bet the Ravens to win the NFC North at plus 230? That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going Ravens plus 230 to win the division as opposed to hitting that over at minus 102.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's a good strategy. That's a good strategy. Because if they if they win 11 games, are the Bengals going to win? Like, do the Bengals have 12 wins? I mean, there's a scenario where that could happen, but it would seem somewhat unlikely. We already hit on a couple.
If the Bengals are winning 12 games, I don't think the Ravens are getting to 11. I guess that's the simplest way to put it.
I already hit on, we got to the Jets over the 9.5, New England under 7 wins. We'll see if betting against Belichick comes back to bite me. The other 3 that I'm on, a couple in a division, and then I'll address Jacksonville here. I mean, I think Jacksonville is certainly headed in the right direction. From even last season, I am a huge Trevor Lawrence guy. I think he is the real deal. They get Calvin Ridley back, and it could be a case where he's obviously rusty, but he's made some nice plays so far in practice that have people pretty excited about it. I think they've got a lot of weapons there in Jacksonville. So I do like them over 9.5. You laid out the division. I mean, them and Tennessee, certainly 2 teams that could be battling it out for that top spot. But I'm just expecting a huge season from Trevor Lawrence here in his 3rd season. 2nd season under a legitimate NFL head coach as opposed to that rookie season when he was stuck with that idiot. So, So, he might have been held back a little bit at that point. So I'm going to get on Jacksonville over 9.5 wins. I can't believe I'm alive and seeing a win total for the Detroit Lions set at 9.5. So as a lifelong Lions fan, I have to sprinkle the over here as well. But if you look at that division, they're like a plus 130 favorite to win the division. I think the Vikings are like plus 300, which I think the Vikings probably deserve a little bit more respect than that. It might actually be a pretty good bet to win the division at that number. But people are expecting big things from Detroit last year. We saw offensively, they took some significant steps. They were a really fun football football team to watch last year. And their schedule this year, let's see, they start with the Chiefs, right? Chiefs in week 1. And then after that, on the schedule, they do get the Bills, Bengals, and Ravens. But those are the only other 3 games. So 4 games, including the Chiefs, and then the Niners. There's 5 games that I look at and go, wow, those are really tough tests. Outside of that, I think the Lions they might be favored in every other game they play in this year. So, I mean, to get them at 9.5 when I really only see 5 truly and they could probably win one of those games. You know how it works in the National Football League. I mean, there are games that you don't think are going to end up going one way and they end up going the other. So
the one thing I'll say is once you get into the division, and I agree, they should be favored. They probably are, certainly on paper, the best team. I mean, unless you're the Chiefs, who have basically embarrassed the rest of their division for the better part of the Andy Reid era, it's hard just to run the table in your own division. Playing at it, it seems like there's a lot of equalizers. I think to get this, they probably will need to win 1 or 2 of those games that you mentioned. But I'll tell you what, I'm not sure that they're not capable of doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't the old Lions. It must be crazy for you to look at this and see the Lions in that position.
It's insane.
Because,
I don't believe it.
Have they ever been a favorite? When was the last time they hosted a playoff game? All of these things could happen this year if the chips fall where they are right now. But I mean, this is a fair number. I think the minus 137
it's a little shocking for me, but yeah.
People are excited. People are legitimately excited. They fell in love with this team last year during Hard Knocks. They thought they were done after their 1-6 start or 1-7, and then the way they played coming down the stretch, people know that this team is ready to take that next step. That being said, it still is very, very strange and uncharted territory
for Detroit to go into a season as a division favorite.
And Dan Campbell, I mean, his teams are going to show up. They're going to be ready to play. I mean, there won't be the on and off nature of that team that you kind of see with some expecting to win. I don't think they'll take anything for granted this year. I'm fired up to see Detroit after they start 0-1 against the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
Imagine if they win that game. My God, it'll be an interesting week for the lock shop. And then Green Bay under 7.5 wins. I mean, you're leaving nothing against Christian Watson, but you're leaving Jordan Love with not a great group of weapons. They could just consistently run the ball the entire game with their 2 running backs. But I think they're the worst team in that division. Yes, I said it. I think with Justin Fields continue to get comfortable at quarterback, I think the Bears could end up being a better football team than the Packers this year. So under 7.5 wins. I mean, to me, the Packers could win 7 games. I'd view it as a pretty good season for the Green Bay Packers post Aaron Rodgers with Jordan Love at quarterback. So to get them at under 7.5 at plus 102, I figured that's decent value. So I took that.
Again, this is more a fantasy statement or whatever. But I mean, they still have Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Both of those guys, I think, are going to be startable. We'll see what Jordan Love does. Watson had that breakout second half of the season after he started off with dropping the bomb on his first play in the NFL. Romeo Doubs showed that he could maybe be effective at times. Again, that was with Aaron Rodgers. Other than that, their third wide receiver, Jaden Reed. They did draft this Luke Musgrave, who I'm intrigued
been good reports. Good reports on him around camp. Yeah.
And then I literally have not heard of I'm not familiar with any other receiver on their roster. Toure, Wicks, Heath, Dubose. I mean, it's going to be, I'd feel good if I was a Jones or Dillon. And the other thing
especially is Jones, because he catches a lot of passes, right? So
their defense is good. And I think people maybe aren't talking about that. That division is going to be fun. It is, I think, Detroit's to lose. My big question is how those divisional games go, and kind of when we get into the second half of the year, how many teams are still in it? Because
I'm even still a little hesitant to say it's Detroit. Minnesota won 13 games last year. Right? I'm not a huge Vikings guy, but Now, all last year, I kept saying the Vikings aren't as good as we thought they were, and they're a schedule fraud and things like that, right? But, I mean, I don't think you go from winning 13 games to winning 7 or 8. So, I don't know. We'll have to see.
The Cuz can still sling it. No Adam Thielen, no Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, but I think that rookie they drafted could have a bigger impact than Thielen at this stage of his career anyway. So we'll see. I think it'll be a tight battle with the Vikings and the Lions in the division.
Hey, just quickly on a fantasy note, how's the? Have you had any drafts yet? What's the mock situation?
I've been doing a bunch of mocks. I like to do mocks in the cab on my way to and from the airport in my CFL stops. So I've been doing a lot of back of the cab mocks. But yeah, drafts kind of begin this upcoming weekend. After this weekend, I'll have pretty much a draft a day until the season starts. So busy times, buddy. I don't really have time for it. Don't have as much time to dive into it this year as I have in past years, but I still got lots of drafting to do. And I was actually trying to trade for Chris Olave in a keeper league yesterday. So I'm still dabbling in it rather regularly, buddy. Not gonna lie.
Well, you're paying enough attention to know that Olave is a must get. And
I know it's a pricey ask, but I might have to pull the trigger on him. So we'll see how that sorts itself out. But this is kind of NFL Futures episode number 1. I would think probably before kickoff we have 5 or 6 more of these type of episodes. Yeah. So make sure you're ready for that. It is our busiest time of the year in the lock shop, and it's the busiest time of the year for sports bettors as well. So we'll try to do the best we can to get you ready, and Huss try to finish strong with some golf tomorrow as well.
Yeah, exactly. We'll figure something out for East Lake and Atlanta. We'll bring Patty on. I know he'll want to take a victory lap as well for his boy Vic Hovland. And then CFL on Thursday. And coming up next week, we will get into player props for both receiving, rushing, passing. We'll get some of our favorite divisional picks, conference champs, finishing it off with our leans on Super Bowl, some of the awards for the year. So
lots to get to.
Busy couple weeks in the lock shop before it gets going on the 7th of September at Arrowhead. Raise a banner, welcome the Lions in, and get another NFL season going. I can't wait.
Talk to you tomorrow, buddy.